Alright, howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at an upcoming game called HeatWave, set in Alaska in the year 2080. In HeatWave, you will fight, manage, and strategize as the head of a guerrilla group fighting off Russian and Chinese invaders. Kind of think of the movie Red Dawn, the good one by the way, not the newer one, mixed with the Freeman Guerilla warfare game and XCOM. As always, you can find a link to the game in the description below. Now before we get into the video, I do want to note this random thing about the game's main artwork. The soldier on the front right looks to be an exact copy-paste of a Russian Spetsnaz soldier as seen in pictures from the 1999 Dagestan conflict. I'm not sure how I remembered his face, but I think it's a rather famous picture actually. I believe Kapkan from Rainbow Six Siege may or may not be loosely based on this character as well. But now let's take a more in-depth look as to what the game is all about. So the plot behind the game is that in the year 2080, climate change has heavily affected not only Alaska but also the world. The US government decided that cut-off territories like Alaska and Hawaii were not worth focusing on and abandoned everyone there to try and save the mainland US instead. Now with Alaska being a former Russian colony and having lots of known oil deposits, Russia and China staged an invasion of Alaska together. Now the Russians and Chinese don't really treat the American civilians living there nicely, which causes many of them to rise up against the invaders. And this is where the game begins, with guerrilla groups starting to pop up all around Alaska, trying to either survive the harsh climate or to even liberate Alaska from the foreign invaders. Now, the game will allow you to set up your own guerrilla group surviving in wilderness while setting up a base that has to stay hidden from prying eyes, and whether these are Russian or Chinese or potentially worse, American collaborators. Whether you decide to collect berries, hunt animals for food, or plunder local communities to feed your guerrillas is up to you. I can assume that attacking fellow American settlements or civilians will not create any long-lasting friendships with the locals again, maybe even willing to collaborate with the invaders to try to get rid of you. Besides food, your guerrillas will also need shelters against the cold Alaskan weather, and they'll need energy sources to heat up food or to keep themselves warm inside their tents and homes. Now luckily, you can craft items, tools, medicines, weapons, or more for your guerrillas to use. Whether these are made from materials you stole from the invaders, found in some random crate along the road, or perhaps forcibly stole from civilians doesn't matter, at least not in the short run, of course. Now here I'm assuming that the game kind of works like Freeman Guerilla Warfare, where you have a large open world map where you can move around Alaska, or at least a part of it, where you can visit settlements and towns, barter with civilians, and take on and complete quests. Then, whenever you enter a combat situation, the map makes way for a smaller XCOM-like battle area where you and your enemies play out combat in a turn-based way. They mention that you'll have to make difficult decisions that shape your playthrough, and I'm hoping that the map is either somewhat randomized or at least events are between different playthroughs. It would be kind of boring if you exactly knew what was going to happen, so there will definitely need to be some randomization. As a guerrilla, you'll have to use partisan tactics, commit hit-and-run attacks on enemy bases or outposts, and punish collaborators while constantly fighting and harassing the invading Russians and Chinese. A possibility to ambush enemy formations moving on the map would be really nice to see, and specifically mentioned here are the setting up of traps as well as sabotaging supply lines. Whether they mean setting up traps on the world map or in the in-game battle map, I'm not really sure. I'm hoping that sabotaging supply lines means that you can cut off, for example, an enemy base for supply for X amount of days, which means that the defenders will either be weakened or forced to evacuate the base. Diplomacy will play a big role in HeatWave. Not only will you be dealing with settlements around Alaska, but also with other guerrilla groups, which sounds again very similar to Freeman Guerilla Warfare. Eventually, you will grow big enough to take on the invaders directly, with the final sentence giving you an option to either continue as your own country or to continue being part of the United States. Now there's a few screenshots I'd like to specifically take a look at as they show the depth of the game I think better than the text did. This first screenshot shows your, I believe, player character and his stats, as well as inventory. Your team members are also shown with their stats and some sort of overall team inventory as well. It appears you can improve your own character skill over time with a skill point system, where you'll have to choose to upgrade your general stats or your combat stats. The player's inventory seems to have room for a helmet and chest item, likely some sort of body armor, as well as a tool belt and weapon slots. Now, whether guns will fit in this 2x2 square, or if that square is for attachments such as scopes and suppressors, I'm not really sure of right now. Your team members have stats as well as skills, which most likely will improve over time, as well as them having the ability to learn new ones along the way. In this screenshot, we can actually see a total of 5 team members, though I'm not sure how many you can bring into a turn-based battle at the same time. A different screenshot on the store page does show 6 friendly units on the battlefield, but I sadly have no clue if that's the maximum that you can field at a given time, or if you can field more than 6 total. The other screenshot I wanted to look at quickly gives us some insight into the skill points with somewhat fleshed out skill trees. There seems to be quite a bit of depth to the game besides the turn-based battles, which I like, and was really something I missed from the Freeman Guerilla Warfare game. Now, what do you think of HeatWave thus far? Just giving an early look at the store page, I can personally see it being a neat sort of turn-based version of Freeman mixed in with XCOM and that Red Dawn little bit off sauce. Let me know down in the comments, and I hope to catch you in the next one.